We're in the busy offices of Northrop & Johnson. I mentioned that right at the beginning because you may overhear some telephone calls in the background, or people may walk across just out of sight. But I wanted to take advantage of this moment to talk to you, Adam. Adam Fitzmaurice is one of the charter managers in Northrop & Johnson. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
Now, Adam, there's a few things I want to talk to you about, but starting with, how did you get into the yachting industry in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a long, boring story, but I started out in 1998. I took a gap year before going to university and moved to Antigua. My uncle was over there, had a dive shop, so he said, come on over. And I was essentially going to work in the dive business. And for those of you been to Antigua, there's a famous hill called Horsford Hill. And as you cross Horsford Hill and start to come down, you look over Falmouth Harbour and it's littered with yachts. And I kind of was like, what are those cool things? Obviously my life then kept me in Antigua. University didn't happen. And I was involved in onshore a business there, but obviously immersed in the yachting industry. It's where I did my first day's day work on a maxi called Kilo 3. How
old were you at that time?
18.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was a likely lad from the middle of Yorkshire, didn't know anything about boats, never sailed in my life. And here I was surrounded by, super yachts back then. It was 110 foot, was this behemoth of a yacht. And over the years, and I was there through to 2010 with my business. But I always kind of did fun things in the summer because we'd close. So I'd go to the Mediterranean. I worked on a 1938 Fife called Mariella on the Panerai Classic scene.
Wow.
So I was always involved in the yachts and did stuff with yacht crew and was really immersed. And 2010, I finally was brave enough to join yachting full time. And I worked full time on the boats for about 5.5 years.
What position in the boat?
So I was actually a chief steward.
That's unusual.
Yeah, so I came from from the restaurant industry. For those of you who ever been to Antigua, I was a part owner of Abracadabras, which is like one of the yachty bars in English Harbour. So I always had a service background. That's always something I'd been involved in, had a huge passion for. And I was very lucky. One of the gentlemen that lived in Antigua was managing a yacht. And I was in Mallorca, Palma, trying to get a job, as everyone else does, Palma, Mallorca, or Antibes being the two options. And he invited me to come over, and I worked on Va Bene as the chief steward.
Which is a Lursen.
Well, she was actually she was originally built in the yard that became Ocean Co.
Right.
Before it was Ocean Co. The owner bought it because the yard had closed and defaulted, unfortunately happened back then. Right. And he finished it, and that yard subsequently became Ocean Co. So I did that, and I was very lucky then to move on to get the opportunity to go and work on Sunrays, another big Ocean Co. And it was great. We went to Abu Dhabi for the Grand Prix, and we did Seychelles and the Maldives, and it was truly beautiful. Came back to the Med, did a great summer. It was a very, very busy boat. And then I kind of had a little temporary hiatus, to be honest. My wife, who's my wife now, was fiance at the time, moved to the UK, and I was just doing a regular job.
What was the regular job?
I was in recruiting for my sins.
Really?
And a captain friend had called me up and said, look, can you come and help me out? We've got the chief stew that we just hired has just quit 2 days before the trip. So I said, look, I'll take 2 weeks off, put in my holiday claim, and I'll come and help you out. I stayed 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just a great owner, but the best thing was the crew.
Yeah.
It's the
so
crew that made
from
it.
what you've said, in your sort of late teens and your 20s, you hadn't particularly mapped out what you wanted to do with life. You were bouncing from one place to another. Is that true to say?
Absolutely fair. I was a partner in the business, but it was kind of this. It was same with yachting. It was a kind of a transient lifestyle that gave me this great opportunity to see the world, to work, to meet lots of people, nationalities, and really kind of grow my horizons. And then, it was towards the end when I was looking to get off the yachts, the opportunity came to work onshore. And here I am.
Now, the story started with you going to Antigua because your uncle lived there.
Correct.
What do you think the opportunities are today for young people who want to get into the yachting industry to just pick up, go to Antigua or to Fort Lauderdale or somewhere where there's yachts and just try to get work? Is that a realistic approach, do you think?
I think it still is. Very much. We know the hubs, Antibes in the south of France, Palma, Mallorca, over here in Fort Lauderdale and Antigua or St. Martin. Obviously, there are legal requirements, so the caveat, make sure you're complying with any legal requirements. But to be young and eager and hardworking is still highly sought after. We see what they call the green crew, a greenie. If you've got the right attitude and you're fun and young and dynamic and willing to work hard, this is a hard industry. There is a real career for you. I always say, if I could go back to my younger self, or perhaps not myself, but maybe my cousins who are now in the industry, the engineering route is a really smart way to go. A lot of the chaps that I worked with who were very successful worked in the merchant navy first, on cruise ships, and then transferred across. Good way to go.
Big demand for chief engineers.
Huge. And you get that real formal training, and it gives you a pathway for a lifetime at sea and a true career.
Now, having established how you got into the industry, you're now a charter manager. Can you explain for people who don't know what the difference is between a charter manager and a charter broker?
For sure. Yeah, it is a big difference. Essentially, you have to look at it as 4 separate sections. You have the owner who owns the yacht. You have the charter manager or marketing manager. You have the charter broker, and then you have the charter, the end user. And essentially what happens is the broker represents the charterer, and the charter manager or marketing specialist represents the owner. And our job is really, as the broker and the manager, is to find 2 exceptionally busy people's schedules to work and match them with a yacht that suits their needs for a date and a location. So that's kind of the way the structure works for that part of the job.
And on a day-to-day basis, how's your day looking on a usual average working day?
I'd love to say there was a white paper you could follow. I think this job that we're in is really about relationships. It's all about relationships and being professional and being knowledgeable and knowing your product. But we spend a lot of our time really working with owners and crew. So how do we help? And we help them. It's all about teamwork. How do we help them and their brand and their program really represent the best of the best? So we work with them to create crew profiles, work with them to ensure the right toys and tenders are on board, that the guys all look great and the boat looks great. So that's one element of it. And again, I stress it's huge about team. The other then is our interaction with brokers and responding to their inquiries, providing them the marketing material. And then the third is just really the fiscal side of things, ensuring all the paperwork's in place.
And that fiscal side is particularly interesting to me because, as you know, last week I introduced you to a yacht owner who's thinking of chartering his yacht. And most of that conversation was really quite technical and about legalities. How do you keep up to date with all of that information?
I think you have to have a bit of a passion for it. I'm hardly the most fiscally minded person, as my wife would tell you, but I do enjoy having that knowledge and that depth of knowledge. I think it's interesting. Obviously, as a Brit, I come from a certain background of European law and British law. And whilst a lot of the regions that we work in follow similar law, then you've got the American side of it, which again is loosely related or based around British law. But then over in the US, there's a lot more of kind of some of the old acts that were put in place to protect US shores, US maritime, movement of customs and goods and people. So I think it's just about, we attend lots of seminars. We have a great relationship with a lot of the maritime attorneys around South Florida in particular. And you have to be a little bit inquisitive. Some might say a touch nosy, but I like the word inquisitive.
Now, I'd also like to dig into a little bit the time management, because you are one of the most busy charter managers that I know. You're one of the most successful, without a doubt, that I know. And whenever I walk into your office, you're usually on the phone and really focused on what you're doing. Is that come at any particular cost, or have you had to make any sacrifices in personal life for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think anybody who loves their job and has a real passion for their job realizes that that does have a knock-on effect on other parts of your life. I mean, I'm proud, happily married. I've got 2 small children, 3 and a 5-year-old. And, you know, yeah, I was on the phone in the delivery suite of my first child. I mean, I wasn't at the time of the birth, but, you know, you're always working. You know, we work in an industry where people demand answers, and also we enjoy it. I mean, I have to be honest, there's a certain amount of enjoyment out of it. But yeah, time management is tough. We do work 7 days a week. Obviously not 24 hours a day, but we're always on call, and it is important to get that balance right. I have a real, supportive wife. My kids are still that nice young age where they can understand and listen. But yeah, time management's tough. It's long days. It's quite intensive, but you know, when you enjoy it, when you have a passion for it, you find time.
Has there ever been a time when you just thought, this is too much, I can't cope with this?
I don't know. Not really. I don't think so. I mean, I like being busy. I am a person that thrives on busyness. I have a targets that the company sets, and they are way lower than my own personal targets. So I've not got to that point yet.
That's
Maybe
good.
At some point.
And final question for you, for people listening who aspire to be in the yachting industry, either as a charter manager or as crew or anything in the industry, what would be your advice for them?
I think across the industry, having some loyalty to your role, having a true commitment to it. You know, I think this is a tough job, both onshore and offshore, both as a crew member and as a supportive role. But you really have to understand that this is hard work. It's cool, it's great, it's too extreme. So when you are, you're in these amazing places, but you're working incredibly hard. So really enjoy it. Like, try to remember to put a smile on your face. We work in a really cool industry with some really cool people, and don't get lost in the noise. You know, enjoy it, because it's pretty special.
Thank you so much, Adam. Appreciate that very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for your time.